A row is brewing over compensating traders whose businesses were affected after violence flared in the flashpoint states of South Sudan between 2008 and later in 2013, when a full-scale war broke out. But there are fears that some of the 10 companies cherry-picked by senior finance ministry officials roped in the pay dispute did not have a legitimate claim. Early last week, the High Court imposed an injunction halting the ongoing verification process of traders who are due for payment. It's not clear yet why some of the claimants were paid after a URA tax audit disputed their claims. In May, Parliament approved 778 billion shillings to pay the traders whose businesses were affected by conflict in the neighboring South Sudan. This came on the heels of a mutual agreement between Uganda and South Sudan, which allowed Treasury to clear the debt and treat it as a loan to the government of South Sudan. The money will be paid back within 5 to 10 years at a 6% interest rate after the first year. The MOU signed covered 10 companies of Rubia Investments, Chibungo Enterprises, Aponya Uganda Limited, Afrokai Limited, Swift Commodities Establishment Limited, Sunrise Commodities, Miss Sophie Omari, Apple General Agencies, Ropani International, and KK Transporters. These companies have already been given at least 41 billion shillings. But fears are abounding that the money recently doled out to the 10 firms is suspect and could have ended in the pockets of ghost claimants. It's not clear how officials at the Finance Ministry cherry-picked the 10 claimants at the time the President has asked for a probe into the payment. But a tax audit conducted by the Commissioner General, Uganda Revenue Authority, Doris Akol, reveals a flawed payment to ghost claimants. For one to qualify as a claimant, it is required that they should be registered taxpayers with Uganda Revenue Authority based on their tax identification numbers. For goods to have been exported, it means they were declared to URA, processed by URA, and exited out of the country by URA, reads a letter authored on August 7, 2017 by the URA Commissioner General Doris Akol, addressed to the Finance Minister Matia Kasaija. For URA to enforce this audit, data was extracted from our Escuda system that was operating in those years before we upgraded to Escuda World. We advised the ministry to use the schedule as a basis for recommendation of payments to the above claimants. For ease of reference, we have attached the said letter and the schedule. The automated system for customs data Escuda is a computerized system designed by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development to administer countries' customs. Among the 10 firms, 3 were paid and yet their claims were rejected by the URA audit. They include Rubia Investments Limited, Miss Sophie Omari, and Chibungo Enterprises. According to the audit, there's no evidence of exports, thus the companies should not be compensated. The decision to pay these firms flies in the face of the URA Commissioner's audit recommendations and attempts to usurp her powers as the head of the tax body. URA also contests another claim by Aponya Uganda Limited and Afrokai Limited, which appear to be a duplicate and should not be compensated. Another claim by Aponya Uganda Limited and Afrokai Limited for the supply of beans and maize corn was rejected on the premise that Aponya Uganda Limited and Afrokai Limited is not a registered company. But since Aponya Uganda Limited supplied Ministry of Defense SPLA, this claim is duplication. Thus the claimant should not be compensated, writes the head of the tax body. Out of the 157 claimants, URA verified and confirmed that 22 claimants duly exported goods to South Sudan. These claimants are registered taxpayers with URA based on their tax identification numbers. Therefore, the 22 claimants complied with the customs requirements for exporting goods to South Sudan, and URA has customs entries for each of these 22 claimants, reads Akol's letter. URA recommends that government may wish to investigate further the claims of other claimants whose documentation is insufficient. However, due care should be taken not to mix South Sudanese claimants with Ugandan claimants. Given the increasing number of claimants, government should decide on a cut-off point to the submission of these claims, otherwise they may become endless, reads Akol's letter. Last week, High Court Judge Musa Sekana imposed an injunction which halted ongoing verification process of Ugandan traders who supplied goods and services to South Sudan. Some traders under an umbrella body, Uganda-South Sudan Maize Millers and Suppliers, in the main petition, sued the Finance Ministry Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, Keith Mwakanizi, for not including their firms for compensation.
As Secretary, Treasurer, and Permanent Secretary, no, I respect the rule of law. And accordingly, I have already respected the court injunction, and I will not take action until court has ruled. And I think it's a right of everyone to go to court. This was there. So, with respect to rule of law, that's number one. And therefore, I will implement court directives.
Amongst the functions of the Secretary to the Treasury under the Public Finance Act is to promote and enforce transparent, efficient and effective management of revenue and expenditure and assets and liabilities of the Gov't.
Under this law, and the letters which are issued to accounting officers, which are part of this law, circulars which are issued are part of this law, is that before you pay, you must satisfy yourself that that payment is proper. You cannot go to Parliament or court and say that Parliament appropriated this money for salaries and wages, therefore I paid, including ghosts.
In a veiled message, Mwakanizi reveals that whoever is responsible for the mess should carry his or her own cross.
I'm talking generally of government payment system. I think, no, it's a directive under the law that accounting officers must verify and satisfy themselves. Short of that, they will be prosecuted. That's the general rule.
Mwakanizi's comments seem to confirm what highly placed sources claim is a cleavage among his finance ministry senior officials. This row is pitting those in favor of the adherence of stringent conditions to be met before the compensation is paid against those who want a hurried process of payment.
So I thought the best way to do it, together with the rule, under the law, is for me to do a verification. And thank you. But the rest I can't go to it because it's under court matter. Now, having said that, of the South Sudan payment, I think I want to take this opportunity to say that we must apply, and I will, as long as Secretary of Treasury, to ensure that accounting officers pay not only correctly, but also they get value for money.
The chairperson of the House Committee on Trade, Tourism and Industry, Robert Kasule Sebunya, also commented about the dispute.
Because even when Sudan will be paying, they will also verify the lists. So when you're in office today as a PSSP or somebody responsible to pay that money, you need to be absolutely clear of the figures, well verified. Even Parliament try to verify. So that means it's not as simple as we see it. So let them verify. They insist on verification because it will also require the Auditor General to give a warrant to release that money from our consolidated fund. So it has taken long, but it's understandable.
Kasese Municipality MP Robert Centenary says Parliament proposed a proportionate compensation allocation which has not been enforced.
Had proposed that this money that has been put in the budget should be distributed pro rata, so that if there are 100 businesses which lost money, there should be equal distribution to avoid leaving out some members, some businesses which are now grappling to get back on their feet. This never happened. So in essence, there are just a handful of businesses that were compensated. And even those which were compensated, they still have question marks. They leave a lot to be desired. Now, we are going to find ourselves in a situation where we have compensated people whom the government of Southern Sudan is going to reject, and therefore it means that the reimbursement is going to be put at jeopardy. And we shall end up losing money as a country.
John Bosco Mare, trader, says there's bad faith from the finance ministry officials.
There is a clique within this government, especially Ministry of Finance, intending to use taxpayers' money for their own interests. The Parliament added addendum that if there is any payment, the 23 should be included. But the Minister of Finance went ahead requesting for a bank guarantee for only 10. The 10 whose association were started in a very unclear circumstance. The 23 together with the 10 did the same supply at the same time. How come that the minister selects only 10? This very 10, any of you, the media houses, can even inquire from them. When did their association start? And what prompted their association to start? It is because they were queried in Sudan for supplying air.
Is that there is conflict of interest. Even within the finance ministry itself, fingers have been pointed at particular individuals. It's unfortunate that the genuine people who lost money in Southern Sudan are not the ones being given the first priority of being compensated. And that is really regrettable.
That some of the money we are talking about must be included in the budget if it is supposed to be so.
In May 2019, Parliament adopted the report of the Select Committee on South Sudan, chaired by Chankwanzi District Woman MP Anne-Maria Nankabira, which made an inquiry into the payment of the 41 billion shillings. The Select Committee report recommended for the payment of 778 billion shillings to the traders. The House plenary also approved a proposal to write off tax arrears owed by the traders. In July 2019, government contracted Ernst & Young, an audit firm, to conduct fresh verification of these compensation claims. Emmanuel Mtaiziwa, NTV.